Welcome to Cut the BS with Holly and Rachel.
We are here to help you ditch the overwhelm, stop second guessing, and reconnect with what truly fuels your body, your mind, and your life.
No fluff, no filters, just real talk that helps you feel strong, aligned, and unstoppable. Whether you're on a walk, commuting, or sipping your favorite matcha, this is your space. All right, so welcome to Cut the BS. My name is Rachel. Say it with me now, aka Ray Ray, aka Bon Bon. And this is my lovely co-host. I'll let her introduce herself.
I'm Holly, aka Holly.
There's no aka needed for her because she is the Holly. So today we are going to talk about nutrition. This is part 2 of our 3-part series where we're going to talk about specifics today. So goals, gains, and grace, baby. We're talking about you, your individual goals, what you're wanting to do for your life in your journey, and how do you tailor some of the information that we're giving you to fit you individually. So if you did not get the chance to listen to our last episode, then please do that just so you can get some of the basics, because we did talk about nutrition basics, what are macros, no, carbs are not the devil. So just kind of recap on that, go back and listen to it, watch it. And then today we're just going to kind of build onto that. Holly and I are going to talk about what we do, what works for us, in hopes that it can kind of help give you some perspective on what might work for you, or what you might need to change. So, Holly, you and I have different goals, because, again, we're both 2 individual people. Let's talk a little bit about, like, what is your goal? What do you want to achieve when it comes to, fitness, health, and then how does that play into, like, the choices you make for nutrition?
I'm in a really weird phase right now where, like, some days I care, some days I don't. And we literally just talked about how, as women, we sometimes have to set aside the emotions of how we feel towards our body and actually, ask ourselves, is this something I truly want, or is it, actually, maybe I'm just content with my body and maybe it's just my hormones playing tricks with me. And that's a hard game that I play with myself more often than I would like to admit, honestly. Most of the time, I'm at a place now where I'm mostly just maintaining. Here and there, I'll throw in a little bit more cardio. Very rarely do I restrict my food or decrease my calories or anything like that. It's just not in the phase that I am in life. If I find myself wanting to lean out a little bit, I'm going to hop on the treadmill or the Stairmaster. I'd rather do extra cardio to put myself into a deficit than take away food. To be so for real. As far as the nutrition aspect of things go, though, because I am maintaining, I'm currently leaning into more of an intuitive eating approach. Listening to my body, taking the knowledge that I have, the knowledge that you guys now have about protein, carbs, and fats, and creating meals that leave me feeling full, satisfied, and like I can go about my day not thinking about food. The biggest thing is, for me currently, making sure I'm getting enough protein, because in my opinion, it's the hardest macro to get. It takes intention and it takes effort, because carbs and fats, they come pre-made, easy to slice up, those sorts of things. Protein, we've got to sit there and we've got to cook, and that's just no fun.
Yeah, you said it. Who wants to cook all the time?
And nobody got time for that. Where would you say you currently are in this phase of life for yourself?
Well, I do, I've said this before, but I am in a phase, I have said, I think in the last episode as well, that I'm in an intermittent cutting phase, but You can call it a recomposition, because I don't really care what the number on the scale says. Obviously, I know that it does kind of, like, I know if I'm at a certain weight, how I feel, versus if I'm at a different weight, how I feel. Um, and I'm going in and out of tracking because tracking is exhausting and it's not sustainable forever. And so I do get exhausted and need to take a break from it because I don't, although I do have the tendency to be obsessive in some things because I'm a little bit of a control freak when it comes to like the things I eat. I'll just be honest. I am really trying to just keep that in check because I don't want to be obsessive and it is exhausting. So I'll kind of take breaks for a few months, see where I land on it. I usually do pretty well when I intuitively eat, because again, I've tracked for a while, so I know, how much protein I need in a meal, or how much carbs, what veggies. I don't count veggies ever, never have, never will. So I just throw some on there and call it a day. But, um, I will say that when it comes to building my plate, I feel like I do really well. Because again, I've tracked for long enough that I know how much of things I need to feel satisfied. And I have so much going on in my day to day that I just need food to be in, like, it can't be in the front seat. But it also is important. So that's how I make it work for me, honestly. I started tracking again recently after taking a couple months of a break, and mainly just tracking the protein. Just like you, I struggle to get enough protein throughout the day, if I'm not intentional with it, and so just making sure that I'm eating enough when it comes to the repairing of the muscles, because I am going to the gym, I am resistance training, I'm playing a lot of volleyball, I'm moving my body a lot, I'm requiring a lot of my body. So wanting to, you know, pour back into my body the sleep, the water, the protein that I need, that's something that I'm just really focusing on. And it's working for me. Kind of going in and out of tracking. I'm still able to enjoy my life and do the things I need to do. So I'm still able to go out to a restaurant with friends on the weekend and have a drink, have whatever food I want. So everything in moderation. Definitely 80/20
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, I think that's something that we both practice and we both preach is that 80/20. And something else that I think I see a lot of people with nutrition feel overwhelmed, and I think it comes to like this all or nothing mindset of it all. And something I just wanted to point out with myself is that yes, I intuitively eat, and when I intuitively eat, I also do use a food scale. And it's not that I'm putting that into a tracking app, but to make sure I'm getting enough protein, to make sure I have an eye on how much of whatever it is that I'm eating. I'm not using it for every meal all the time, but it can be really beneficial to just have a food scale and just see what you're eating. But going back to that all or nothing, like, I can be an intuitive eater and use a food scale.
Yeah.
You don't have to box yourself into always tracking. You can take breaks. You can track for a week, learn a thing or two, see if you can sustain what you learned and not track, and then jump back into tracking. Like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing one way or another. And it doesn't have to be exactly what the internet is telling you it has to look like. Make it work for you.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Because I feel like as humans, that's just what we fall into, the all or nothing. We either feel like we're completely successful or we're complete failures, and that's just not the reality. It's been working for me, we've talked about how I'm kind of going in and out of tracking depending on what I feel like I need. If I need the extra accountability, I will track. If I feel like I need a break, I take a break, and I'm still seeing results, and I'm still taking the steps, progressing towards my goal, which overall is like kind of what I'm aiming for, is to just kind of progress towards my goal. And I'm okay with taking a little bit longer because I want the freedom to enjoy things while I'm reaching those goals.
Yeah. Letting go of that instant gratification and letting yourself kind of be in the driver's seat and ask yourself, how is this feeling? And kind of going from there can be huge.
Yeah. And instant gratification, realizing that it's not a reality when it comes to this stuff, I think is a hard pill to swallow, but it's necessary because it takes time to do things in a healthy way. You know, if you lose weight too fast, you're going to see a lot of damage and atrophy to your muscles. And guess what? Your muscles aren't just your biceps. Your muscles also include your heart.
Yeah.
And so seeing those negative effects of losing weight too quickly, you know, a lot of people, you know, I've seen a lot of people go on these diets and cut all these, you know, certain macronutrients out, or maybe they're only consuming, you know, X amount of calories a day, and it's such a low number, and they're seeing results and they're losing weight, but there's going to be some negative effects to losing weight too quickly. So just being patient. None of
Yeah.
us are good at it. Just practice it anyway. And you know, slow and steady wins the race in this case, definitely.
For sure. And yeah, you don't want instant gratification in this area because that's probably not a good sign that it's sustainable either. So when we think about nutrition in relation to our individual selves, as always, it comes back to our own goal. So if your goal is going to be fat loss, you're going to probably want to be in a calorie deficit. If your goal is to put on a little bit of muscle or even to maintain, you might want to put on a little bit more protein in your overall macro consumption or to each meal. Biggest thing is that don't overcomplicate it. Like if you want to lose weight, you simply have to be in a calorie deficit. If you want to put on a little bit of weight, of muscle, whatever it may be, you're going to want to be in a caloric surplus. However you manage to do that, however you split your macros, that's going to depend a little bit more on what your specific goal is. If you would like to put on more muscle, again, you're probably going to opt to raise your percentage of protein compared to your percentage of carbs. That said, you still probably want to match your carbs to the level of activity you're doing in order to put on that muscle. You still need carbs in order to function well in your strength training sessions. Anything, Rachel, that you feel like could help people with their specific goal, or would you say like keep it simple as well?
I would say keep it simple. I mean, you know, the reason we mentioned this in the last episode, that the reason we like to track macros is because it kind of gives it paints more of a picture of the quality of what you're eating. But ultimately, if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. If you are out there saying, well, I'm in a calorie deficit and I'm not losing weight, well, you're probably not actually in a calorie deficit. Some people don't track sauces. Some people don't weigh out their meat. They just say, I had one chicken breast. Well, like we said, a chicken breast can be 4, 6, 8 ounces. That plays a role. And I don't say that to be like, whoa. But it's just true.
Like we talked about in that first episode, you might be under eating. You might be consistently under eating, that probably your hormone health is a little out of whack, and maybe that's why you're not losing weight in a deficit.
Yeah.
You might be too deep into a deficit. You might need to come out of your deficit for a period of time and then re-enter once your body is a little bit more comfortable and healthy to be in a deficit.
Because I think being in a deficit too long, your body adjusts, and your deficit is now different because you've been in a deficit so long. Or maybe it has affected your hormones, and your hormones have then changed or played a role in your deficit is no longer your deficit.
Yeah.
You know?
And we
So-
don't want to get too deep into a deficit. I think that's like the biggest mistake people make is,
Yeah.
especially right off the jump, being where you should be in like a 12 weeks deficit cycle. You don't want to
And
be
it's
there
like we
on
talked
week one.
about. Yeah, it's like we talked about losing weight too quickly, like the damage that it can have on your hormones and the damage that it can have on the health of your muscles, including your heart, which is an important one. So going about it in a sustainable way and in a smart way to where we're taking our time with it so that we're not causing any alarm to our body necessarily.
For sure.
I think is important.
So yeah, overall, don't overcomplicate it. That said, there are certain times and days and activities that we're doing that require more or less. So Rachel, when you're going and playing beach volleyball and then also going to do like a weightlifting session, if you ever do that in the same day, is there something different that you would do to your diet? She's like, hell no, I don't hate myself. But even if you're just doing one, like let's just say beach volleyball because you're burning more there. What are you doing different in your tracking or your day-to-day approach with your beach volleyball days?
So on days that I play beach volleyball, obviously I'm in the sun, which means my body temperature is rising a little more dramatically than if I were in an air-conditioned gym. Also, I'm doing more cardio-based activity when I'm playing volleyball, so my heart rate gets up higher. So all those things taking into consideration, when I'm playing volleyball, I'm gonna, for one, hydrate even more. I'll probably even add a little extra salt into my diet, or electrolytes, which is basically salt plus some vitamins, minerals, so that I can my body can hold water and I'm not just sweating it all out because your girl sweats in the Florida sun. And then carbs. Like, I'm going to need some quick energy and my body needs to break some things down. So maybe if I'm playing in the morning early, which I do more often than not, I'll play at like 6 a.m., then I'm going to have to carb load the night before. I'm not going to get up at 3 a.m. 3 hours before and eat complex carbs. Like, I'm not doing that. So I'll just I'll like add on some extra carbs. Instead of, half a cup of rice, I'll do 3/4 cup a cup. I allow myself to have more pasta, maybe. I don't really consume pasta these days. More so because it just isn't worth it in, my goals. But I'll allow some pasta maybe the night before. When I'm driving to go play, I'll have like a rice cake with some almond butter, drizzle of honey. Again, just simple carbs to really kind of fuel me. And then after, making sure I'm taking in my protein, like protein shake or something protein packed. In comparison to if I'm going to the gym, usually I go to the gym in the evening. So, just making sure I have a nice normal lunch, 8 ounces of meat, veggie, carb. My usual usually will fuel me well enough for a lift.
So I think like just listening, a little bit of listening to your body, but again, listening to your body takes time. I think.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's a privilege, but you do need a little bit of trial and error, and you do need a little bit of education in order to really understand what your body is communicating to you pre and post workouts.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So, again, people say take your protein before your workout, take your protein after your workout. I don't know that it matters that much, but I usually do a protein shake in the morning because I'm not a huge breakfast eater. Really making sure that I start my day with at least 30 grams of protein is one of my non-negotiables because, again, I'm not a big breakfast eater unless the breakfast is at like 10 or 11 a.m. and by that time I'm at work. Having that protein shake in the morning is something that I do just to get my day started, but I do feel better, starting my day with protein. As a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
All right. So we've talked about like how we kind of tweak our macros. I told you about how I differ my fueling my body for volleyball versus weightlifting versus just an average day. So let's go a little bit more into the sustainable piece of nutrition. Do you time your meals, Holly? Do you like eat at a specific point every day? And if so, what does that look like? Or if not, what does that look like?
So I think this is meal timing, and what I'm going to eat is the part of intuitive eating that I really lean into. So I don't say I'm going to eat breakfast at X amount of time some mornings. Truthfully, I don't eat breakfast. I'm really bad about sitting down with a cup of coffee in my book and going on about my morning until like 10 o'clock. And I've got the shakes and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't prioritize breakfast this morning. So I don't necessarily time meals out. That said, I know how I feel when I don't have 3 solid meals a day. And I don't want to feel that way because I feel sluggish. I don't feel like I can wholeheartedly be in anything because my brain's not functioning. I don't have enough carbs in my body at that point, or I don't have like the mental capacity for it. I'm finding myself to be more anxious because I've probably had too much caffeine, not enough food. So meal timing isn't so important to me as much as realizing, hey, let's check in. Have we had something to eat within the last, for me, it's about every 3 hours, a solid meal every 3 to 4 hours. And then typically maybe a snack like once or twice a day.
Yeah. And I think, too, something that we haven't really touched on that I do want to throw in there is like listening to your hunger cues, because we all have them. It's the hormone that tells us like when we're hungry and when we're not. So really trying to pay attention to those. Again, we live in a very like, in the type of society that moves very quickly. We're always doing something. We're a very working society here in America. So we're working all the time. We're so busy. We're rushing. Like it's just a rush society. And so because of that, sometimes we can overlook those hunger cues because we're so busy. So just taking a minute to kind of evaluate, okay, this is how I feel. Are you hungry? Are you like a 10 out of 10 hungry? You've probably waited too long to eat.
Yeah.
If you're eating, and also like your fullness scale. So when you're eating till you're 80% full and not stuffing yourself to where you're like, oh, after. We've all done it. I think is another piece that listeners and viewers can incorporate to help them if they are choosing the intuitive eating route.
Absolutely. And I tell people who are interested in intuitive eating, and in general, I think it applies, but like you listen to yourself when you have to go pee or go to the restroom. So why are we not listening to our hunger cues, right? Like it just doesn't make sense why we've been taught, so it does make sense. But it's frustrating that we have been taught that our hunger cues aren't really necessary. No, they are, right? And we're going to talk in just a little bit about how to manage that hustle and bustle of it all and still hit your goals and still provide your body with that fuel that you need.
Yeah, and I'll say like if you're miserable or you're feeling hungry all the time, you're doing it wrong. Like without a
Absolutely.
doubt, there is no if it works for you. No, in this case, if you're hungry all the time and you are feeling kind of miserable and you find yourself thinking about food all the time because you're hungry, I mean, you're not doing things in a healthy way. So maybe it's time to reevaluate that. Whether it's you take, oh, not the headphone. Oh, wow. Whether it is like you take pieces of advice from us or you schedule an appointment with a nutritionist or a dietitian, that way you can be adequately prepared. It's time to reevaluate if that's where you're at.
So true. Hunger, the feeling of hunger all the time and thinking about food is not a way
It's
to go
enough for
about
me.
life. And it's also like not a pat on the back to constantly be hungry and to constantly be feeling like you're not feeding yourself.
Yeah, it's enough for me.
And I think something that we maybe touched on in the last episode a little bit was the impact of not eating and how it affects our cravings. And so I know that midday, late in the day, in the evening, if I'm craving more carb heavy things, I probably have not had adequate protein that day. That's not to say I don't eat my protein and a sweet treat. I absolutely will. But if that's like really like all I can think about, I know that I haven't had enough protein or fats in my day. And I think that's something else that can be really beneficial, is not just always giving yourself permission to enjoy that craving, but asking yourself, have I had what I needed, number one? And then if yes, can I add anything to this craving to make it better? As you learned in the last episode, pairing a sweet treat with a protein or a little bit of fiber can go a long way with how our body actually digests it and uses it for energy.
Definitely, because I how many times do I have to learn this lesson? I like this last, I don't even know the time frame, but in this last probably week, I was just kind of eating whatever, and I just felt myself so hungry and just like craving all the snacky things. Like I was craving the snacky things like the chocolate and chips. Like I wanted chips and just things that have no nutritional value, really. And so like that was a cue to me that like, okay, let's think back. How much protein have I had today? And the answer was not enough. And so that's just like a direct correlation. And then, you mentioned pairing it with something else. Like if I'm craving something sweet at night and maybe I have had enough protein, sometimes I'll have like half a protein shake and then have whatever it is that I want, regardless of what it is. How can you add to whatever it is that you want, um, to make it better versus deny, indulge fully in way too much?
Right, 100%. And something I find myself doing, I'm a sweet treat girl. I know that once a day, at least I need a little sweet treat. It's just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I will put it pre or post workout typically. So prior to my workout, a rice cake and a chocolate rice cake with some almond butter. So fire. It's a sweet treat. And it also is giving me that quick energy I need to do my workout, or post workout, just replenishing the storage of it all. So that's a way that I kind of lean into the craving. Not that you have to earn the food, but it's kind of serving a purpose.
Yeah. Just doing it smarter. Like,
Yeah.
we're not, we don't ever agree with like deny yourself, whatever it is that you're wanting or craving, but how can you add to it so that you're still kind of giving yourself what you want, but in a better way, being smarter about it.
So we talked about not letting yourself get too hungry and overindulging in anything because you've let yourself get too hungry and there's nothing prepared. So then you're opting for the quick and easy stuff that, let's be honest, tends to not have the most nutritional value. Doesn't typically have a lot of protein because, like we said before, protein takes effort. So what are some things that we can do in order to think ahead? Because my favorite saying as a coach is, when you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Oh.
What are some things that we can do to better prepare ourselves for the week ahead? Whether you're a busy mom, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in corporate America and you've kind of got a little bit more, you're bound to certain hours a little bit more, into a certain meal timing and a certain amount of time you get for lunch, those sorts of things. What are some quick and easy tips that you have for people in those situations?
Yeah, well, I will say that if you want or need more convenience, it's going to cost more money, period. Like if you want the pre-prepped stuff, if you like, there are meal prep places that you can go and buy your meal prep. We did that for a while. It's going to cost more money than doing it yourself. If you're a penny pincher, you want to save money, you want to save dollars, you want to know exactly what's in your food, it's going to require more work from you. So you have to make the decision, do I want to have more control and spend less money, or do I want something that's convenient but still helps me reach my goals? And so, I have not been doing a great job of it recently. I've had a lot of help from my counterpart, but like we meal prep every week for lunch, because buying lunch is $10 to $15, and I think per meal that we meal prep at home, you're looking at like $3 or $4 total cost. Like we've done the unit price, so that's saving a lot of money, and my husband's all for that because he's in finance.
He's a finance bro.
Which I'm thinking of that song that was viral that was like, "Get you a man in finance."
Yes.
I don't know what
Yeah,
it was.
yeah. Yeah.
Man, did I get myself. They say that until you got to pinch the pennies.
Yeah. So you're
no.
the spender in the relationship.
Is it that obvious? um, so yeah, we'll meal prep, but also I like to know what's in my food. Again, there are lots of in today's America, we have a lot of places that provide meal prep that will give you your macros. All you have to do is scan the barcode and keep it moving. So for people that are really busy that need convenience, be prepared to pay more money, but there are ways to do it. understanding how to read that nutrition label, we're going to get into that next time, so stay tuned. But, you know, I think that that's important. Batch cooking. I know a lot of people that will prep ingredients, not meals. Now, we do meals because, I don't know, I like to grab and go in the morning. I don't want to have to divvy out in the morning. But some people will prep ingredients. So maybe they'll do, and that's kind of like where we get into the batch cooking. So, maybe prepping a few pounds of ground beef, seasoning it, putting it in a big container, and then divvying it out for whatever meal whenever you're hungry and heating it up. Maybe we'll batch cook some veggies, and then when you're ready to add it to your plate, heat it up, go on about your day. So things like that definitely are convenient. You can really plan that way, and again, what's in it. And then obviously, like I already mentioned, the purchasing meal prep, you usually know what's in it. They have ingredients lists and they have macro counts, so it can be beneficial as well.
Yeah. And something I do personally is I just make more of what I'm already making.
Yeah.
If tonight I'll make enough for leftovers for lunch for the next day, or maybe even lunch and dinner for the next day. And so if batch cooking is too intimidating to you, or meal, you don't like to eat the same meal throughout the whole week for lunches, just make enough to have leftovers. If you don't like leftovers, unfortunately, I don't know what to tell you other than grow up. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't like leftovers, but I just kind of force myself. I don't think of it as leftovers. I think I have to change what I think of it as. Because if I get leftovers from a restaurant, I will 10 out of 10 times not eat it, not eat the leftovers. I know it's a character flaw.
For
But
sure.
when I'm meal prepping, I will eat it. But it's not left over. I prepped it specifically for that day. I just have to warm it up.
That's fair.
But
Hey,
yes,
mindset matters. Mindset matters. Even if it's placebo effect, it doesn't
it
matter.
definitely is. Yeah, right.
Um, yeah, just look for things that you're already doing, even if it's just planning your meals. I think one of the worst positions I find myself in is not planning my meals for the week. And then it comes 4 or 5 o'clock on that day and it's time to cook dinner. I'm tapped out. I've made too many decisions at work. I've done too much already. I'm cool. I'm not making a decision on dinner. Or having a log of recipes that are just easy, quick, convenient for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually working on something for my clients to have as an option is like a little recipe book of all of mine and Kaylin's recipes that we've found. Because trust me, like we have both had goals that we've been reaching and we've been successful. We have found things that work for us. So we have done all the research on all the meals that we can do. We like variety. We're like foodies. I don't know if you and CJ are the same way, but me and Kaylin are foodies. We like to enjoy food.
Yeah.
We care about how it tastes. We ain't doing no bland food over here, even with my spice allergy. So we've had to be very creative, and so I'm working on that. I'm very excited because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And that's where that first episode, understanding macros. Once you understand macros and can make it fit into your goals, game changer. Like,
Yeah.
I grew up not eating, like, I guess macros. I ate meals. As silly as that sounds, like, yes, there were macros in the meals. But, like, I wasn't eating potatoes and chicken and a veggie. It was all somehow kind of like all put together in casseroles or, just different things like that. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in this, it has to be bland and it has to be plain. And that's boring. Don't be boring.
Yeah.
Make your food fun.
Yeah. I agree. And I've also noticed, again, either my algorithm is just top tier targeting me with shots fired, or we're all just the same. But people who are like, I guess, very conscious and intentional with their food, we all eating the same thing. every time I see somebody's TikTok, somebody's Instagram reel, it's always like meals that I made the night before. And I'm like, did you copy me? There's no way they could have copied me because I didn't post a video or a photo of it. And I'm like, I don't know if you feel that way. Or
No,
if
I
you get that
definitely
on
do.
your pages.
And
I'm
I
like,
think
make
there's 1,000,005 things you can do, but there's also only so much you can do. All right, so now that you know a little bit more about how to cater your nutrition to your goals, no pun intended. I'm on fire this series with the puns.
Man, catering.
Period. Anyways, now that you've got that, now that you understand how to adjust your nutrition to your goals a little bit more, you're beginning to understand some of the basics of nutrition. Next week, we're going to jump into a little bit more of, shall I say, the nitty-gritty of it all. And we're going to talk about how to read and understand a nutrition label. Because once you understand that, and you understand carbs, proteins, and fats, the world is your oyster. Or whatever that one saying is.
That is the saying.
That is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, it goes back to knowledge is power. Once you understand the back of a label and you can say, okay, this has X amount of protein compared to X amount of carbs. This fits my goals. This doesn't. You can pick and choose what foods fit into your diet and what foods maybe don't fit great. Maybe they need to be sometimes foods and not all the time foods.
And we're also going to talk about the misinformation, because marketing is a beast. And there are a lot of things that are being marketed as high protein when in fact they're not actually a protein source. So just like the importance of reading food labels and not just looking at the marketing on the front of the box, but turning the box around, like that is something that I've really started to do heavy. So we're going to talk about that next episode. I can't wait.
That's a wrap for this week's episode. We'll catch y'all in another 2 weeks with nutrition labels and misinformation.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Cut the BS with Holly and Rachel. If today gave you a dose of clarity, confidence, or even just a good laugh, we've done our job.
Don't forget, wellness isn't about doing more. It's about doing what actually works for you. So take what hit home, leave the rest, and keep showing up as your strongest, realest self.
Be sure to follow, rate, and share this episode with someone who's ready to cut the BS and live with more intention. Until next time.